Trying something totally new today, so let's see if it works. Yeah, it does. That's good. Now I gotta figure out how to monitor all this stuff. I'm using a new program for this, so we'll see how this goes. Give it a little tryout. My first wheel at it. Yeah, right now I can't see. There's a viewer. Okay. Trying a third-party live software on this evening just to see how it works. Looks like I'm at least audio and video capable. It's kind of cool. You can do some weird stuff here like this to change your display and make it look different. So we're going to try a few of these little gizmos and see if they work. There we go. Okay. So learning the ropes. How's everybody doing today? It's been a busy week. Been a crazy week. I guess in the vinyl community it's really been crazy. We'll talk about that. Some of you may know. I'm still no better at seeing who's on this thing. Let's see if this will tell me more viewer activity. Stream settings, stream health. Stream is healthy. Yeah, I'm still not seeing where it tells me who's online. So if you wanted to say hello in the chat, that would help me immensely. Just at least know who's on here. Because I don't see anything. I have concurrent viewers. I have, let's see, views. I have chat rate. I have all sorts of statistics. You have become a statistic. I guess we're all statistics. Between statistics and cameras being watched everywhere we go. Yes, those are the two classic things in our lives anymore, right? All right. Everybody's shy today. No one wants to say hello. Let's see if this will tell me. Participants, just me. Well, I know I'm a participant. That's redundant. Okay. Same tools with the same. All messages are visible. Okay, I got that going. All right, so we're going to see how this works. I've actually done a couple of real short videos that I haven't put into a kind of releasable format, but I have the raw. I thought I'd show at least one of them. They're 4 minutes. They're not long at all. Just to see, can you hear them? For one thing, and two, just to give you a first view of them as well. So we'll see how that goes. So it really would help me if you did chat and let me know if you can hear what I'm going to play. I've got 5 views on here, 1 concurrent viewer. Number of viewers connected to the stream at the most recently available time. Okay, just 1 person it looks like there. So, okay. Yeah, so let me test this. I'm going to go ahead and put that on. And go over there. Turn my stream on here and see if I can hear it too. So. Okay, so this is kind of a quick overview of a Mofi One Step and what's in it. And let's see how it plays. Let's see if you can hear it. So this is going to be showing you the contents of a Mobile Fidelity or Mofi One Step, and I happen to pull Carole King Tapestry for this one. So let's take a look at what's inside and how it's boxed. This has obviously been unsealed. There's a styrofoam here for protection. And then we have... I'm going to pause that for a second, and I can tell you, if you got an ad pop up or anything like that, I told it not to monetize and not to do any ads. So if it's doing them, I apologize, but it's purely YouTube doing it. What I do with live streams, frankly, is I keep monetization off during the live stream. And then after it's over and it's posted, then I go and add monetization for those that watch it later. So I try not to put any liability on people who watch interactively. But I just saw on mine an ad popped up. But just in full honesty and transparency, YouTube is making that decision. So let's continue here. Cover, but it's just showing you the way the gatefold interior would look like, and the back cover. So again, front cover and gatefold, and then the back. So this is just heavy stock paper. We get a UltraDisc One Step layout of how it works. Now again, we know these graphics have changed, but the One Step basically here shows that the father and the mother, which are usually steps that are in between the lacquer and the stamper, are eliminated. Normally, this is what gives you the high yield and capability to make more stampers from mothers and make more mothers from fathers. Here with the One Step, it goes from the lacquer that comes from the mastering engineer, and then it gets made into a stamper here, which goes to the vinyl then. So if they're going to make about 1,000 of the records from each lacquer, you have to have X amount of lacquers to support that many. And again, that's what made the issue with the Michael Jackson become so obvious, because it was going to be 40,000 of these, and 1,000 of those per yield would require 40 lacquers, and we knew they wouldn't run the master tape that many times. So that's there. Then we get to the actual records. So what they do is they have LP1, and they just have an image of that. Okay, and on the back it just shows you what the songs are on each side. There's 3 songs on side 1 and 3 on side 2. Obviously going 45 RPM, it's going to have a little less storage. And again, some of these have a little split seam on the top here, because these are shipped with the record inside, and the record inside is protected by this heavy stock. Then the actual LP comes in a Mofi sleeve. So you get 2 of those, obviously, covering the entire recorded album. So you don't really get a traditional cover and jacket for putting your albums in, which has the image of the actual front cover and back cover like you would see in the store on the originals. So the 2 LPs and then another styrofoam piece to secure it all. And that's basically what you get in a Mobile Fidelity One Step. All right, so that worked. I mean, I could hear it on my end, so that's how that works. I'll get my other one going. So that I did the Mofi, and then I'm going to do, I did a UHQR analog productions as well. So let me turn that back on. Just kind of testing the waters with this new software. So far, it looks pretty good. All right, so now we're going to look at a UHQ. That opened the wrong software. I gotta open it in Windows Media Player, not VLC. All right, so now we're going to look at a UHQR, which stands for Ultra High Quality Recording by Analog Productions. This is pressed at QRP, which is the record plant there in Salinas, Kansas, where Acoustic Sounds is part of this triumvirate of companies that are there, which yield both productions like this, the remastering and the production, then through QRP, and Acoustic Sounds is kind of the store front on the web. So we're going to take a look at Aqualung Jethro Tull, and this is a UHQR by Analog Productions. So I'm going to come over, and so you notice we have some stickers here, and this one says officially licensed and authorized for resale by the record label. It says 100% analog masters, so this is like a real tape, and this says made in the USA, qualityrecordspressings.com, Quality Records Pressings logo, and it says innovation, precision, the best LPs ever pressed. And the bottom one says the Analog Productions quality guarantee, original master tapes. We use the original master tapes and work with only the best mastering studios. Quality Record Pressings is, of course, plating and processing at the world's best pressing plant on virgin vinyl, unmatched quality control, meticulous test pressings, evaluated and quality control, deluxe packaging, which I'll show you, highest quality jackets and rice paper, inner sleeves, and then limited editions, less than 1,000 recordings in per stamper, meaning they won't make any more than 1,000 records per stamper, released in limited quantities. So
tough to read upside down, let me tell you.
Then, here's what we have. Very different kind of arrangement. This is kind of like a bookend when you look at it. You can see it has the Jethro Tull Aqualung like you would see maybe on a book on a shelf. So very different presentation. Okay, so you get, firstly, in this case, which would be an insert normally in an album or on the actual inner sleeve with, in this case, the words for the album. You get kind of a promotional thing with the technical specifications manual. Goes into very deep detail about the process. Okay. They have some promotional material as well regarding other pressings that they have available. But this is the core to me, is really giving you a full, transparent and visible detail of the methodologies, including photos of how these albums were produced. And I think that's obviously important in this classification of record. So then you have, there are going to be two LPs in here, and the first one in the inner sleeve is here, and there is a bubble wrap between the two so they don't bump up against each other. Okay, so this is clear, whereas Mofi didn't bring it out, but Mofi is black. It's kind of a clear, it's, in this case, it's called clarity vinyl, which means clarity, clearness. And then the second LP, you can see the kind of the original chrysalis green on there. So those are your two records, and they have, again, that bubble wrap between them. And then you get an actual gatefold of the album. As well as a certificate of authenticity signed by Mr. Chad Kassem. So you get the gatefold. I'm not going to open this fully because I don't care to, but this is like the original album, very sturdy. Backside, this is number 953, individually numbered here. Okay, so you can choose, if you'd like, to then place these records inside of this jacket
if you choose to. There's openings here on each end. Or you can leave this as it is within this box the way it came. And then, so you have a choice. You can keep the box, you can take this out, put this in your collection with a outer sleeve around it, put these up in your bookcase or whatever. So you have lots of options. And I think that's, I know one of our great VC people, Norman Maslow, really doesn't like this box, and I certainly can see it's very different. From a handling standpoint, it's kind of nice to get in there and pull it out and be able to easily access things. So I find it kind of nice, but the point is, this is what you get, and this is essentially the differences between the way Mobile Fidelity presents a one-step, where they really don't give you a cover like the OG and the originals and even the reissues, but Analog Productions does. So that's a difference. Affects price maybe a little bit, I don't know, but my point is, it is a different way of presenting the product, and they're very, very high quality.
Okay, so those are the kind of the comparisons between the two. And the reason I did that, hi there, Guy, how are you? Appreciate you chatting there. Let me know you're there, Quick Spec. So again, for me, I personally believe that, take that off there real quick. I believe that, you make the choice, you're the consumer. There are different approaches, obviously. I can see pluses and minuses in them. I do like the fact that you get an original gatefold kind of jacket, which you then can put the records in if you care to. Again, seam splits and all. But the Mofi ones with that black and then the small image in it, it's, it just, it's different. It's and of course, one steps are different. So, it's a matter of personal preference. These obviously the box of the Mofi One Step's a little more like a standard box, or multiple LP box that goes in the shelf. The one from Analog Productions, UHQR, sticks out a bit, like a bound book kind of. It's rounded on the edge there a bit, sticks out a bit, but it looks kind of cool when you get a series of these. It looks kind of like a law firm's record collection or something. So, to each their own. Essentially, right now, the thing that's really discussed is the price, right? What's the price difference? And the UHQR right now is $150 with the latest releases, which started with Kind of Blue 2x45. It went up to $150, and then the Steely Dan's all are at $150. The One Steps has stayed at $125. Frankly, I think that's partly potentially related to their situation right now. If they had the chutzpah, kind of, if I'll say that, to raise it right now, given the situation and given, what it takes to produce their product, I don't know. They certainly probably are considering that. So, I would just tell you, if you do want to get a if you do want to get a One Step, from Mofi, if you pre-order, you'll pre-order it at the price it is today. If it goes up tomorrow, then, you have to deal with it that way. That's a decision you have to make. They both, to me, it ends up, it's the titles, right? It's the records we want to listen to. What title is it? If one offers it and the other doesn't, then, what do you do about it? Oh boy. So, that, to me, I really feel like the money that you pay is really for the content. It's for the, it's for what you're listening to. Now, presentation is part of it, but if, again, Chad's not going to be releasing the Eagles. and Mofi is not going to be releasing Steely Dan. So that's the bottom line. That's really, at the end of the day, that's the bottom line. So I don't know any other way to say it, but you just got to live with what it is. If you don't like it, don't buy it. That's, I don't know any other way to put it for me. Everybody has their pluses and minuses and preferences. To me, I'm, in it to get a record that I think is the highest quality when I'm going to spend that kind of money, and the packaging is secondary. But for me, the packaging on the UHQR is a little more robust, and it's, it gives you that original record feel with the original jacket. And so I like the way it's presented and the content of it better to me, because of that very reason. I was a little bit disappointed when I opened my first One Step, and I'm like, where's the jacket? And then there was a hard paper, a stiff paper kind of image of it, and I'm like, ugh, okay. I really didn't like that. That was a turnoff to me. So for whatever reason, it was done, okay. But to me, I don't really. It takes away the connection point a bit with the way you have traditionally, felt the record, dealt with the record, opened a gatefold, whatever. That whole, experience is totally lost with the Mofi. And that's not debatable. That is true. That is a fact. Whether it means anything to you, that's a secondary thing. I'm not saying it's the most important thing. The record is the most important thing. But it is a difference and a distinction. And that was the only reason I'm going to put this video out, is to just show people the difference. They can judge for themselves whether it matters to them or whether it doesn't. A lot of people don't want to pay anywhere near that anyway, so it's not really that relevant. But, it's free to watch, I guess I'll say, for lack of a better term. It's free to watch. So yeah, so it's been an interesting week. I was scheduled to interview Chad Thursday or Friday this week, but because of kind of what went on with the stream on Wednesday, which I didn't know at the time we had scheduled the original, that was going to happen. I think that was a decision that was made late in the game to join Jeff Edgars from the Washington Post by Chad. I think that was kind of waffling on whether he would or wouldn't, and I think they kind of decided at the last minute to do that. And so it would have been right up against what I was doing with him, and I thought, maybe not. And then after kind of the way it went Wednesday between that particular interview and then what I was doing, what went on with the Rachel's Ghost after party, I thought that, let's back off for a bit. I want to talk about different things. And, I had intended to broach the subject about the Bill Emmons box a bit with him. I had been in touch with him about it earlier the previous weekend. So it kind of took the steam out of that, and I just felt like, hey, let's hit reset, let's regroup, let's get a weekend in between, get fresh, get fresh, and look at that. And so that's what I'll do. I don't have a date yet, which day this week, because I'm going to be in San Antonio part of the week with the new grandbaby to help Mom out, because Pop's got to go back to work. And today my wife had surgery on her foot, so I've been dealing with, helping her out a little bit to get move around a bit and whatever. So just been a fun week. But anyway, so we had the winner. The second winner was Vivian Lund. I did a random drawing for people who submitted names officially. In fairness, what I did is I took anybody who submitted a name either in the video on the contest or in the comments, and I put them in the hat, so to speak. People had thrown out names in Rachel's Ghosts and my stream and others, and I just, I wasn't really tracking those. Those weren't, I felt officially submitted. I mean, in fairness, if I ended up picking one, I probably would have given credit to the person who gave it, of course. But anyway, so we had a drawing, and Vivian Lund, one of the 13 people submitting names, won. And that is not Dr. Lund, by the way. Dr. Lund is a different person whose initial happens to start with V, also ironically. But and she generously donated the $25 gift to St. Jude Hospital in Memphis, which I transacted and sent her to show that I did. So I mean, it was really nice of her, and great interacting with people like that. But anyway. So that's all. I guess the contest thing is all done. And, you know, like I tell people, if you don't like the name, just think of me as Audio Excursion, and that's fine. Do what, you know, everybody has to live with their decisions, I guess, at some point. Not that they can't change again, but I really have kind of settled in and said, hey, that's where I'm at. So I'll be putting together a video on what I showed you all. You got the first peek at it in raw format. And did any of you that saw that Small X, we'll talk about that in a second. Any of you that saw the video a few minutes ago, how was the layout? Did that work? Was it helpful? Did I go slow enough? Was it... you know, if you got any feedback for me, please let me know. That was the first time I kind of did it that way. I'm always trying something new. I'm going to really kind of branch out a little bit. Nothing crazy, but I am going to branch out a little bit in terms of the way I do things, just to add some variation, you know, to it. You hadn't read the article. Yeah, I mean, the article was, you know, what's really interesting about the article, in my opinion, is I saw it immediately as soon. Not sure what you missed. Okay, I can replay it. I can show it to you. But the article is interesting in this sense. I read it digitally when it came out, and there's a first section in it, and that's where this Tom Port thing is at. And then there's like 6 independent stories after that, which are very interesting independent stories. So when you read it and you look at it, and I'm convinced of this, when you look at things online, you know, you're tending to look in a smaller world kind of thing. Whereas the guy from the Washington Post actually brought out the newspaper piece of it. And it's, you know, big, and it's on the front page, and then there's a spread in the middle. And, you know, it's just huge, you know, and so you get a much better perspective of how big of an article this thing is. Whereas when you're looking at it in chunk sizes on your screen, you know, whether it's an iPhone or an iPad or even a computer, you're just getting it in pieces. And so you get the perspective of this. But the article basically started with this thing about this Tom Port guy who runs a thing called Better Records. And what he does is he goes out and tries to finds the best sounding version of any given record, and then sells it at a premium price. Sometimes he does it just in general to have it in inventory. Sometimes he does it on demand or on request. He has very high-end customers. It's a niche market. It serves a purpose. People who don't want to go out and do the research and spend the time and do the grail hunt and whatever, they can just go there and be assured to some degree they have one of the better pressings of whatever the album is. And if they don't like it, they can return it. So it's a totally legitimate business model in and of itself when you look at it in the way I just explained it. But this term hot stamper has come up, which implies that, you know, of all the stampings, he's going to find the hottest one, or he's going to find the one that was, you know, and for some of these records that have sold millions of copies, it's like, really, come on, statistically, you know, that's a problem. So, for me, I look at his business like I described it first. This secondary thing about calling it a hot stamper and all that, I think that's where it really gets into being contested more. If he wants to get the best, Chad has the vinyl vault with acoustic sounds, and that is getting collections of the best, most well-maintained records that are out there and then reselling them. That's what he does. He gets a collection. They check the collection. They clean anything they need to. They play test what they think might be needed, and then they put a price on it. Now, what they don't do is they're not sitting there grabbing 10 different versions of record A and trying to find the best one of those and saying that is the best record or the better record of them. So it's a little different business model. And again, I mean, I'm not here to argue whether the guy ends up picking, to his hearing, I'm sure he picks up the best sounding of what he has access to. And I firmly believe he does that. Now, whether I would agree that that's the best sounding of the 10 he listened to, maybe not. That's, again, debatable. In my opinion, sound is different to different people. But again, it's legitimate. But in the article, the guy said, that Chad's never made a good record, basically is what he said. And, I guess Chad has called him, and I don't know that he called him this in reaction to that statement. I think he just generally called him an effing loser. And again, these relationships, quote unquote, have long life. These are not new because of this article. These are old issues that have lived through the vinyl community and through the leadership in vinyl for decades. So, this is this poor reporter, in a way, he kind of picked up on the hot topic, and apparently that wasn't going to be his lead in the story, but his editor read all the stories in there and said, you need to put that one in there first because that one's kind of juicy. And it is, because it starts with one guy saying somebody else has never made a good record, and the other guy called him an effing loser. That's tabloid kind of stuff, and even the Washington Post wants people to read. They want people to bite into the article, and you got to get them early. So let's see these comments. Sorry, I'm yapping here. Small X. Haven't read the okay. Familiar with Better Records? Yeah, it has. Okay. Not sure if he still does it, but he scratches out the matrix info. Well, that would be, I would have a problem with that if he scratches out the matrix info. I don't want to, I'll use the word it's defacing it, but it kind of is. I know you don't play it, but it is part of the identification. So that's a little, I get why he would be tempted to do that, because someone could say, oh, this is the blah, 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 and these are the markings and these are the best. Now, someone else, you could share that information. I guess I see it from that perspective, but at the same time, that all starts to me to go downhill in terms of, I don't want to say legitimacy. I just want to say, being above board, and really, that's really protectionistic. But I get it too. So it's, and these are maybe the things, like you're saying, these may be the things that are in fact what's causing this rift. Yeah, I think you're right, Small X. I think you can, through information, come to get one of the best pressings. I'm going to put it that way. Maybe not the best, but one of the best. It's like one thing that's starting to become clear is certain things that are being done these days. And let's take the Rhino reissues, Rocktobers, a lot of times they're called. These reissues being done, mastered by, Chris Bellman or Kevin Gray or whatever, are really great values for $30. Very quiet, very well mastered productions. And so my point is, if you know and you listen and the RSD Essentials, another great release example. So, I mean, if you do your homework a bit, listen to the right people and things, you don't necessarily have to be diving back into, if you want to go get, the original Blue Triangle Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd and pay hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars for it, that's fine. But, and it does sound better, but does it sound worth enough compared to the 2016 remaster, which is pretty darn solid? Okay. Let's see. I had a friend many years ago that bought many records from him. All the info was scratched out. Okay, well, I that's the first I've heard that. I, like I said, I get why that might be happening, but that would kind of piss me off as a consumer, just because someone's, I don't know. That just doesn't feel right to me. I don't know, but. Was Fremer still claiming he could tell there was something off with the Mofi One Steps before? Mike kind of, sort of, kind of. He always kind of gets really close to saying it that way. He doesn't put it quite in that precise a term. I knew something was off, or something of that nature. Kind of like, and I knew over time, but. Here's the thing. I think the Dire Straits self-titled was one that I think he reviewed positively, and then came back in the one that he said some Mofi records I would never review or something. He already reviewed it and he gave it like a 5. He said it wasn't that good. So it's kind of like, how could that change? I don't know how that changed. Yeah, they're just different. Well, and again, best in whose ears as opposed to eyes. In whose ears? That's the thing. It's all, even when it's absolute, let's say on a meter, is it absolute in the mind of the listener based on their system, based on their hearing? There's a lot of things that make up that stew, so to speak. Charlie, I think at the end of the day, there's a lot of that actually for Michael Fremer, that it's kind of like he didn't get the big story. That's really, for me, what I think it ends up becoming. And he was close enough to it to be able to sniff it out and pull the trigger. But sometimes you can get so close to something, you become kind of complacent. And it doesn't mean you're necessarily a shill or that you're in bed with somebody about it. It just means that your confidence is built up enough to where your mind looks the other way, even though sometimes intuition tells you differently. And I think that kind of is where it went. And then when the buzzing started happening, and it was picked up, I want to say the first person I think I heard say anything in this regard. Well, let me be clear. I had heard this offline from someone confidentially about 3 to 5 days before Michael 45 did his first little statement about maybe it's this Tuesday or so of that week. Then Mike Esposito came out on that Thursday afternoon. And the reason I remember this is when I heard Mike Esposito, I said, okay, 45 did something on it. Now Mike Esposito's done something, and this is something I know something about. And that's why I released my video Thursday evening of that same day that Mike Esposito released his, because I was like, if this is the case, here's the history. Here's the documents that they showed back when they were first being released, and what they assured us was the case, and started to try to give some perspective and history to it, if it was true. And then Fremer got on me for even bringing the subject up. You could be impacting people's lives and they could get fired. He came out very straight on my own video, episode 21, I think it was, and saying you shouldn't be saying anything. And I was kind of like, it was more like is it true? Could this be true? If it's true, what does it mean? And oh, by the way, they've always said, here's who we are. This would be quite a shock. So I was just saying, hey, come clean. You either are doing something or you aren't. Yeah, small acts. I think that's true. It being, it is a hobby and it's supposed to provide enjoyment. And yeah, there's times lately where it doesn't feel that way at all. It doesn't, and yeah, sometimes, it's interesting. You can get too close to the how the sausage is made, so to speak, as Chad would say. You can get too close to the inner workings, and I've felt that way a little bit lately with it. But there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot to say in terms of positive things. Like I said, if and I'm not saying because you can get a $30 copy of Steely Dan's Can't Buy a Thrill on November 4th. And if I don't know how the digital is going to sound, I'm going to get it to be able to compare it to the OG. But I'm also going to get the UHQR. Why? Because for me, I've been waiting for a high-end version of that record for, I don't know, 40 years plus. I can remember wanting that to go to Mofi back in the early 80s. So, yeah. People got to recognize, admit there's a difference between enthusiasm and influencer in the VC. Yeah, I get that's an interesting point. Small X. SACD of Asia for me. Yeah, I really wish. Now, Asia's a different color, but the first 4 Steely Dan albums, I believe, all have quads. I wish they would have came out with a 5.1 because I've got the quad albums of them. So that was a bit of a disappointment to me, frankly. Yeah, Asia will be interesting to listen to on SACD, of course. But I'm kind of interested about your opinions on this idea of enthusiasts versus influencers. Who do you think fits in those categories, I guess, and why? I'd be curious to hear your take on that. What you think the difference is. I saw, I only saw part of it, and I didn't today, but it seemed like Michael 45 came out with a video that he had it on 8-track. Oh gosh, hated 8-tracks. I think he had a thing about he's got some guy who sells OGs to collaborate with him on making those available to the community or so. I didn't honestly have time to really sit through it all. I have a trouble sometimes sitting through Michael's just because the voice and the pace, or it's just, for me, I've got to take it in smaller doses. But I guess I got that point. I mean, I'll say this about Michael: when he gets in on something, he goes whole hog. He was whole hog on Mofi. Now he's whole hog on OGs. And the only thing I will say about OGs, I've said it before, is that generally they are noisier. And that it can be very distracting to me. Yeah. It's about business or enjoyment. Yeah. Well, that's a fair way of putting it. I hope mine are more about enjoyment. I'm trying not, this isn't really, I know I've got my business name attached to it, but that's really just, that's just a strategy that I had because of wanting to blend my what I do for a living, and what I do for fun together. That's all. So he's setting up some kind of OG buying club. Okay, thank you for putting the word buying club because I didn't know what that meant. I'm sure it's not going to be like Columbia House where you can get 12 records for $1. I can tell you that. So if you remember those from the past. But there's a lot of money. He had a video the other day of Grail stuff he got. And I mean, we're talking some serious coin in what he had bought. And I don't begrudge anybody that's worked hard in their life legitimately, by the way. But, and can do that. That's great. That's really not where I would want to put my excess money to any great degree. If a few trinkets here and there, a Steely Dan here or there, I've only ordered 3 of them because they were the 3 that I like the most. What I like of theirs I really like, but I'm not a fanatic to the degree that I would say, I really love Countdown to Ecstasy. Well, I don't really love Countdown to Ecstasy. It's not a bad album, but it's just not up to some of their others, for me at least. That's all I would say. So yeah, that's what he does has to take time. Oh, for $4.99 a month, he will help you connect with his dealer in the UK to get UK OGs. Also, maybe connect with dealer in Germany, USA. Okay. All right. I couldn't, like I said, I wasn't able to really listen to it full through, and I was at the hospital and all, so I was only picking up part of it. Yeah, Mike, you still owe some money to one of the clubs, huh? Yeah, I'm sure the IRS will be after you. They've added these 40,000 agents now, so chickens are going to come home to roost, right? So okay, well, I mean that's a thing. $4.90. Okay, I mean, you know, I say connections and influence have a value, and they cut through the crap, and they cut through the I went on Discogs and got screwed, or you know, that's legit. I mean, and I can tell you right now, buying from the UK, for example, with the exchange rate in the US, if you're in the US, is a hell of a good deal. So now is the time, if you're going to look at those. That's why I bought quite a few recently through that channel, because the exchange rates were so great. So yeah, you're right, Small X. It is always a matter of how much you want to spend. And again, once you get someone reputable, then you stick with reputable, and you go from there. I mean, that's the thing. And there are people who are perfectly willing to buy from Amazon because of their return policy. And okay, there's nothing wrong with that. My experience is that, it's kind of like, gee, it's a shame I have to use it that much to know that's the reason I like it. And they are, in fact, the root cause of why I have the return policy most, because they don't know how to handle records from a lot of their distribution points. So, am I impressed with that? I'm always, if it's a really good deal, maybe I'll do it. But I just, feel like that's not their core competence. And if I'm buying from somebody because I think I'm going to have to return it because of the way they handled it, then there just seems something really, counterdictive about that in my mind. I buy from the In-Groove because I know the reputation of what he does, and I know their packing and their shipping and their backing of what they do. So to me, I don't mind spending a few extra dollars to know I'm going to get a good shipment and a good experience. When the box shows up, I want to listen to it. I don't want to have to reprocess it 3 times before I get a good one. So that's just me. Everybody, that's why there's different places to choose from and different options. So that's to each their own, and let the market decide, because that's what we live in. And that's, if people don't want to pay $150 for whatever, or $125 or whatever the number is, then okay, nobody's holding a gun to their head. But I think people who put others down because they do, I don't really care for that. I really don't. There's a snarkiness to that, I think, sometimes. Let's see, was a consumer, let's be honest, why would anyone pledge allegiance to a brand and business? Yeah, well, you earn a reputation one way or the other, and you go with what works for you. It's no different than picking a car repair place, or a dealership, or a restaurant, or anything else. To be allegiant, I mean, it's like, I know some people thought, well, I was defending Chad. I was, if Chad has a problem with something, I'm going to say something to him as well, and I have. But at the same time, I think the vinyl community doesn't need to be rude to someone. And it's, there's someone coming in to try to settle a problem they think exists because they've heard about it. They just wanted to be clear, and then it kind of got into a lot of other things. And The thing with Mazzy, that's been there for a long time, because that thing's about the box, and that's been brewing for I don't know if it's years, but definitely in the last year, that's been brewing, and kind of like it was said a lot of times, and it was written a lot of times. And the problem with writing is it's a joke, unless you put a smiley face with it. But I mean, Mazzy's, I know he's sincere when he says, give the box to someone else, just send me X. But it's like, who in their shipping process is going to set up a certain special thing for a buyer? I mean, it's just like, that just isn't, I mean, it's not a custom product in that regard. So you can customize it when you get it, just like you throw out packaging for a lot of other things. You can decide what you want to do with it. And if it violates his social conscience, don't buy it. Whatever that reasoning might be, just don't do it. It's okay. I mean, Chad's gonna make it with or without you, me, Mazzy, or anybody else. I mean, he knows who his customers are, and he takes care of his customers, and he tries to take care of all his customers. But there are times when that becomes difficult, because there's a very, 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 very small percentage of them who just, there are people who have been banned from certain companies buying from them anymore, because everything they get's a problem. Everything, they just, whatever it is, and Amazon has the same thing. People that constantly return stuff or whatever, they get red flagged. I mean, it's businesses aren't in business to, deal with those situations when it's really not reasonable. So Mazzy still has CD long boxes. Oh, okay, Michael, you're that close to there. Cool. Nice. Yeah, well, there you go. I mean, that's, InGroove had a lot of failures, over 100 of the vinyls. He required cleaning, that you get the cleaning process, because he had to open them up and look at each one because of the problems he had. It was so extreme, Yeah, how did that end for the consumer? Yeah, allegiance to Mofi. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, 40% failure rate. Okay, yeah. Yeah, it was, you want to talk about, and again, I mean, they made tens of, hundreds of thousands probably of those animals. And I know people that got a perfectly good one too. So they had a problem somewhere in a batch process of some form that caused that, whatever the reason is. And it really depends, I mean, how good is your traceability? I mean, do they mark which stamper number it is and the dead wax? I mean, how far do they go to know? And it's really, it takes some effort to trace backwards, and you have to have enough record keeping, enough data in the transactions to know that you can get to, where it was made, what day it was made, what press it was made on, what operator was operating. Then you look at, did you have any anomalies in the operation that day? Did you have any maintenance that came up that day? Did you have any QC red flags come up that day? Did you, if you did you pull back, previous stampings from that press far enough back to weed out what the issue was? I mean, it takes a lot of effort to do that. If you like music and buy all formats, it's often makes sense. Yeah, no, it doesn't make sense to buy a record sometimes. I mean, and if you look at all that could go wrong, the vulnerability of a record is much higher than a CD or, that digital media. There's no doubt about that. I mean, there's there's all sorts of elements that can go wrong with that. So yeah, they are bought often for the difference in sound, and they're more expensive in many cases, right? Hello, Toronto. How's it going up in the northern cool lands? So yeah, records. Yeah, I mean, if you looked at it on paper and you looked at it just common sense, you'd say, yeah, it's. I did a shootout and I was doing it was Donald Fagen, and I'm like, I added a category called surface noise, and I'm like, well, not applicable, SACD. It's not even applicable. A plus 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 plus. So yeah, I mean, it's just it is. That's the inconvenient truth about it. Records are there's compromises in records that are very multifaceted. There's a lot of things that can go wrong in a record, between being on center, being warped, having vinyl that's a little bit dirty, having inner and outer groove distortion if it wasn't cut exactly right. I mean, there's just on and on and on. Well, they are supposed to sample lots, but again, the definition of what a lot is, they sample within a stamper. That's where they're sampling, because there's part of that depends how they batch and where they work from, and they do a lot of visual, but there's things that are not visual that happen, and that only the needle can tell you. Yeah, I hear that about. I know Stunty started that discussion about packing too quickly, not waiting for cooling, and I have not been to RTI, and I have not seen their process. But I think the way the flow is at QRP, that wouldn't happen there. There's enough lag time between when they are pressed and they are on the spool before they get to the packing room, built into the process. But again, I'm not going to speak to RTI. It may be very well. Hello, Stereo. Welcome again. Jazz artist Hermie is not on vinyl. She is on. Okay. Yeah, Michael. So, I mean, yeah, again, that's a choice. That makes it real easy. If you want to listen to the person, this is the format, right? Yeah. I hopefully will be seeing Stunty when I go to Sweden in December. I'm going to try to pass a note out to him to see if I can have a beer with him, maybe see his plant. That would be cool, to make a connection in the community that far away. So you think, yeah, there are people for which this is a fad. You're right, Small X. I'm sure of that. You're right. There's a certain percentage genre that's in that for the coolness of it for the moment. I get that. Walka, Jaweka, and the Grand Wuzu are up for pre-order at vinyl at Zappa's website. Well, for Zappa fans, Charlie has some info there. Waka, Jawaka, and the Grand Wazoo are up for pre-order. I've seen that title, but it's been a long time. My goodness, wonder what year that's from. I'm not a big Zappa person, so I don't know exactly. But thanks for that info for anybody who's a Zappa fan. That's one good thing the vinyl community you get. I'm sure that we all got our copies of Taylor Swift Midnights today. I'm sure that's been a priority. Okay, just kidding. All right. My son ordered the CD and he still doesn't have it, so I don't know when he's going to get it. Poor kid. Could have gone to the store and gotten it, but my wife ordered it for him online. So, yeah, the AP Steely Dan are going to cost about 200 Canadian each. Yeah, that is expensive. That is. Now, just remember, 1/4 of that cost has nothing to do with Chad. So I say that, I guess it does in a sense. They got to charge shipping, but my point is the core product. Yeah, it's Swift not welcome down here, huh? Well, they think she's gonna 72. Thanks, Charlie. Yeah, I thought it was not far from when Aqualung was out. I don't know why I had a connection in my brain with Aqualung, but just wait for the standard 45 RPM editions. Well, you can, or you can even buy a 33 digital in the short term from Udiscover from Universal. It's a digital transfer to lacquer, but I don't know. I have to see. Yeah, I'm not into Zappa, so I couldn't tell you. But if someone, they're like all of them. They're making decisions on, I'm sure popularity, requests, whatever they're making them on. Yeah. Now here's the thing for anybody who is strategically waiting on the 45 RPM editions of Steely Dan to get released. Please go ahead and talk up people buying the UHQRs. Say, yeah, that's the best deal. Go for it. That's a great, because once they do, then they'll release the 45 doubles. Until they do, they won't. So selling out on the UHQRs is very important. Now, been released been okay. I don't know if you're talking about Zappa, Charlie. Maybe you're talking about Zappa. I did notice the quantities on Steely Dan are different now on their website than what they were announced to be. So they are higher. Asia was 25, now it's 30. The only one that stayed the same as Can't Buy a Thrill was 20,000. All the rest were supposed to be 15, and now they're all 20. At least by what it says on the website by each for each individual album. But the release video says the smaller numbers that I gave you. So I'm kind of curious about that. I'm going to talk to, okay, what happened to the big news Chad was supposed to say today? Okay. I heard somebody say something last night, maybe, that there was a big announcement coming today. And I don't know where they got that from, that it was today. I don't know that he said today. He said, it's coming. I don't have approval to say it. It's, the contract, I'll blow the deal. I can't say anything yet. He said it would be coming out of something out of Nashville. And he said it wasn't new country or rap or, progressive new music. He said those things. Yeah, I don't think I don't honestly think he said it quite. I didn't hear that. I think I would have caught it. I didn't expect it to be this Friday or because what he has said to me in the past, recent past. So when I started to hear that yesterday, there was no video to go back to and play the tape. Obviously it was gone. So I couldn't verify that. I didn't, and then some people went, yeah, if it's Friday, then it's maybe Taylor Swift and maybe it's whatever. And I'm like, no, I don't know. I didn't know where that came from. I don't, and I just don't think he would have said it. Just knowing what I know, I just don't think he would have overtly said it. So, I didn't. I got the impression it might be somebody he's never done before, but I didn't necessarily get the idea new band, I guess. He might have said something new and different, but new and different can mean I've never released that person. Let's say it's people were guessing, is it a country? Is it a Willie Nelson? Is it a Johnny Cash? Is it a, whatever? Because he specifically said no new country. Now again, Nashville, be careful. Nashville, he said out of Nashville, but okay, the mastering studios for Sterling are in Nashville. So I don't, I think people made the assumption when he said Nashville that the artist, and maybe he meant maybe it's getting mastered at Sterling. I don't know. He threw a few Easter eggs out there in very random ways, and none of them added up to a specific date or a specific. It eliminated things. It said it's not this and it's not this. I remember that very much. Yeah, no new country, he said. I think he said none of that new country shit is what I think he said. Because I know Chad's box of no-nos, where he's not going to go, what he's not going to do. He's been very clear about that. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, he has a fairly structured way of going through selections, beyond the fact that, of course, obviously it has to be considered as available. But I don't have any idea what it is. I just know that I do not, like I said, when I heard that last night about it being Friday, I thought, man, I think I would have thought I would have picked up on that pretty quick. But again, it was a wild and woolly conversation. A lot of words came out. I could have missed it. But even for Chad to say, it's like the Steely Dan announcement. If you look closely at the video that came out on Steely Dan with the announcement, Chad said in the video, the release date's October 28th. And then they put a graphic up that said November 4th. So from the time he recorded that the week before to the day it came out, there was a change made. And my guess is, if I was it's just a guess, or if I was a betting man, there was something about maybe being sure that Universal was ready to have all its $30 pressings ready to go. They wanted to give themselves a little margin. The other thing is you had the big Beatle Revolver thing coming on the 28th, and you tended to not want to compete with other big releases. That's another piece of the puzzle potentially. But I know the announcement date for it moved a bunch of times. I mean, it was moving around when I was there on August 30th. So these things are pretty dynamic, I guess would say. Yeah, I get the feeling it's not jazz, honestly, Jose. I get that feeling that it's not. I think it's something that when it comes out, you're going to go, okay, Analog Productions is doing that. All right, that's okay. I don't think it's going to be one of those defaults like, oh, no, not another, whatever, fill in the blank, Art Blakely or Bill Evans or whoever. I don't think it's going to be one of those kind of things. I think it's going to be something a little more, I don't want to say shocking, but I can say this. I think the volume, the amount of them is going to be relatively limited, much more than like a Steely Dan, much more. So I do get the feeling that it's not going to be a huge run. So I think it's going to be one that can get gobbled up a lot sooner than the Steely Dans. Yeah, well, Jose, I remember you saw that last night. Yeah, they had it on their website already as to be sold as a pre-order through standard, channels. When I thought about it, I said, there's just certain artists, when I think about it, I just can't see Chad wanting his name with it. I don't know why, and I don't mean any I'm not besmirching anybody or, trying to put down anybody when I say that. It's just there's certain things that kind of fit and certain things that don't, right? Led Zeppelin, Velvet Underground. Yeah, it could be. I tend to not think it's Zeppelin. It seems to me there's some contractual type stuff that would be a block to that at this time with Atlantic, but I don't know. Or Jack White, he has a label in Nashville. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that. The only plant that I know that he's working with is RTI, so I don't know if he'd have anybody else. But I don't know his labels there. But I don't. I don't. Does he have Third Man do his or what? Lawrence Welk, UHQR box set. Yeah, that and the Lennon Sisters and yeah. Yeah, Jack White's. Yeah, I mean he's a interesting guy in the industry. He certainly is for getting more pressing plants online. I don't think I want to see labels put up pressing plants. I mean, I know they have the money, but the way they manage those kind of things, sometimes I just, think it's not really at the behest of the consumer as much. So, but you get like Rhino label. I mean, Rhino is just putting out some killer albums, killer sounding, paying for mastering engineers like Kevin Gray and, of course I get draw a blank. But I mean, your best mastering engineers. And, so I'd say, hey, it can be done. It definitely can be done. Yeah, White Stripes did an ERC release. Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, I think there were some mock-ups of some White Stripes stuff in the video that Chad did of his business. There was also a Rush, if I'm not mistaken, in the graphics department section of the video that he did. If you look, there's a few Easter eggs in that, because I told him about one, and he was really shocked that I picked up on it. And I mean, it was on the screen like a second or maybe a second and a half, and. Yeah, they do. Labels can do that. You're right, Victor. To what degree or magnitude right now, I'm not sure what that's going on. Yeah, Third Man. I've heard that. I think I've got a couple by them. They're not. I don't want to say dead quiet, but they're a little noisier than I had expected, I guess. But yeah. There's a lot that could be released, right, guys, gals? I mean, there's a lot that isn't not out there that could be released. So I had done. It is to be soon. Yeah, I mean, it is. The announcement is to be soon. I expect it to be in the next 3 to 4 weeks max. Boy, I would love it if it was Chicago. I would honestly. Well, I say that I've got to throw a caveat depending which album. I mean, they've had a few stinkers, obviously, but I mean, some of the earlier stuff, especially. Yeah, I think somehow this thing about being today got started somewhere somehow, and at first I honestly heard of it. I think was last night on Rachel's stream. I don't think it may have been in people's mind when Chad was on, or they heard something that made them think that. I did not, honestly. And the only reason I say that is, honestly, I think if I had heard that, I probably would have texted him later, because I did text him later after that. But I didn't. I never, like I said, I didn't hear that, so I didn't. That wasn't, because I would have said, "Is it really?" Because the reason I would have asked is, did he say something in the heat of the battle that let go? Because he's trying to be pretty careful about that. But again, he can also get. It could be Ringo's. No, I don't think it's going to be Ringo's new album. Isn't his new album an EP anyway? I think, but. Gee. GC in. Okay, I don't know, Richter, I don't know if that's a joke statement or I didn't know was Rhino ever using QRP? I don't know. If there's something tangible to that, if not, I can see that as having some potential humor. It's horrible. Well, love Ringo for the history and all, but he's probably the least he's had a few hits here and there, but yeah, not did Rhino stuff then gone. Okay. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, now that you say that, it was earlier in the earlier days of QRP. I think. I think I've got an older Rhino. I don't know if it's a Monkeys or what it is. I think may have been done in QRP. But well, the thing is that QRP too. I mean, it works both ways. QRP bids like anybody else bids. When they're taking bids, I mean, they don't always, their production, they're going to prioritize Analog Productions needs. That's for sure. Because that's kind of like money on both sides of the ledger, the pressing, income, and then the acoustics, Analog Productions income, and reducing, paying off the licensing debts that you have for the stuff that you do through Analog Productions. Because when you're pressing third party, you don't have any of that licensing stuff. That label has it. So it's purely, just running the factory at that point. The label was correct, but the music on the record was actually East of Underground, Hell Below. Wow. And where was that done? Was that done at QRP? GZ is in Memphis. Oh, the Memphis in. Okay. Yeah, I knew they had a Nashville. Is the Nashville open? I guess it is. I didn't know they had a Memphis. I think they also have a Canada plant, don't they, if I'm not mistaken? I thought I heard something about Canada with them, a division of GZ was up there. I mean, their reputation from Czech Republic is not good, that's for sure. Candid Records, okay. Yeah, I've never understood sometimes how that happens. I had a 45 of the Beatles, never forget it. Beatles, capital number 5555. It was We Can Work It Out and Day Tripper, and I got the label on both sides says We Can Work It Out. So I'm like, how did that get in there? France and Canada, they do good picture discs. Well, yeah, if you don't have to listen to it, they are great. It's a picture disc. It sounds awful. We expect it to sound awful. Okay, we can cover our tracks by making picture discs. Okay. Yeah, I just don't even, I mean, I don't even throw a picture disc on the turntable. I just put them on the wall or whatever. It's not what they do for me is, yeah. So I am, I saw some guys on, I don't know if you guys saw it on on YouTube, but three guys in a video chat, and they had, received the revolver box already. And I mean, I thought, how'd they get that? I gotta see if I can. I mean, I'm not sure. Maybe they say at the beginning. I don't know if they're reviewers or what, but they somehow got them. And I thought, yeah, that's a week in advance plus, and they had them. So I guess they're, or as Michael Frommer would say, on the gravy train, because people say he's on the gravy train. But Burlington. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Tony. Yeah, I thought I had heard that. I had heard, and I guess the Animals was released mainly out of the Netherlands, I guess. But I also had heard that there were some pressed in Canada by GZ. But I, don't know for sure. But I thought I had heard that and or read that. What are you referring to, Victor, about what Chad said about single press quality? If you meant, well, yeah, just if you could clarify that. Oh, RTI, okay. Where labels are just reference points. Yeah. I looked up RTI on Google Maps. Oh, inconsistent. Yeah. Yeah, okay, yeah. No, it is, yeah. There, I mean, there's it's a repetitive process, but there's a lot of nuances to the process. A lot of variables in the mix that can go wrong or can affect it. I don't want to say go wrong, but can affect it, and how they match up. The air, the cooling, the puck material, the pressure, the time, all those things. I mean, in general, honestly, when you look at some of the presses and you look at what they do, and then you look at the outcome, you say, "Wow, that's pretty amazing, that thing," because what the machine itself looks like. It could barely roll a taco kind of feeling. Seems very volatile to me. Someone put on the wrong plates. Yeah. Yeah, I had that happen with a car once, but that's a whole different discussion. I won't go into that. Yeah. So, well, yeah, human element is always huge. I mean, Yeah, and the thing too is there's two different things in quality that are often confused, but not to be confused. And there's quality control and there's quality assurance, and they are different disciplines, different approaches. One's a lot more preventive than the other, and the other is more corrective, trying to catch things after the fact. So the quality assurance is a lot more in the preparation and prevention side, and quality control is more on the reaction side. So Finn built these. Jack's copy, new build like waffle machine. Yeah, he was talking about some of those builds, how they've separated some of the things that have movement in them and the hydraulics off of the machine, because that is, again, another variable, when those things are running, and they cause vibrations and other things. So Yeah, they prevent quality. Quality prevent. Yeah, I get you. Tony Molina. No, okay, hadn't heard of that. I'm into some new. I do, have some new bands that I like, but I hadn't heard of Tony Molina. So yeah, I like the sound of the birds. Yeah, so I'll have to check that out. Thank you, Jose. I liked your being on the show. That was you had a lot of interesting stuff. I liked. I think was it you that held up an old Yoko Ono 45, and I said, "Boy, that thing looks like it's actually been played. It looked kind of abused." It's kind of like you would think you would find a Yoko album or a single, you'd be like pristine because nobody ever played it, or they played it once. And we joke, okay, it's a standing joke, I guess. Yeah, so I did probably some of you may have missed it. I may go back and show you. I found it in a store here. It was pressed in El Salvador. Okay. You know what's interesting, guys? I've noticed there's a lot of records that came out in the late 80s, early 90s that are hard to find. And what I've tended to find is that there's vinyl available for them in usually the home country of the band and Brazil. Brazil, it seemed like, was pressing records quite a bit as the CD was taking over and still did it. So there's some grail type stuff that it seems like you can get out of Brazil. So really, that's really interesting, Jose. Very interesting. I don't know who was showing off their headphones on Rachel's stream the other day. I must have missed that. Okay, Odeon. Yeah, exactly. This was a Steve Perry, so that's Columbia. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Oh, it was Pedro. Okay. Pedro was in rare form. He was in rare form. He's a good guy. For the most part, everybody's good. They just have their moments like everybody else. I had my moment when they were ganging up on Chad. I was like, guys, come on, stop it. You got the owner of a record company on this stream. Have you know? And, Putterman's like, screw him, just, he's just like anybody else. And he is, but at the same time, it's like, come on. You want him to come back, maybe. When he showed up, I'm like, oh, shit. Because Chad's a freewheeling, free-thinking, open-speaking kind of person. And, and he can get very emotional. He can get very intense about things that he believes in. And, so the Birds, Beatles, Love Child. Okay. Thought that was Klaatu. No, it's not Klaatu. Okay. So yeah, but the guy puts himself out there, so it goes with the territory, and he knows people in the community. He knows their names. He reads. He reads posts. I was amazed when I first met him how much he was spewing off names and Loki Tio, and he would just he really had them. You had to drop off before it got interesting. Yeah, it got way too interesting. I think I have watched that Victor, sorry. But I mean, I don't remember it real well, but I do remember being interested in watching it and seeing it. But I've looked at so many things since then. It's just not reminding me. Sure, Tony Putin's asking, can you fill me in? I don't know if that's Putin or Putin. Maybe I got to be careful. I don't want to say Putin, but can you fill me in on why everyone jumped on Mazzy so quickly he hadn't even asked the question before being told to shut up? Yeah, it was a little more than shut up, but anyway. Okay, so I can tell you this. So Mazzy has been on a rant, I'll call it, for a while about the boxes that Chad uses, that they're too much material, they're too big, they're bad for the environment, all sorts of reasons why they don't fit in the shelf flat, they don't all sorts of negative comments about them, and both in verbiage and in writing, comments, and so I mean he's been fairly associated with that, and so. Chad knew that, knows that, has heard it and seen it. And so this was the first time I think he ever, was face to face with Mazzy. And the first word out of Mazzy's mouth was UHQR, which triggered Chad because I'm sure in his mind he was saying, if you say one word about the boxes, I don't want to hear. That was, I think, what was going on with him. So when he said UHQR, boom, that was a visceral, knee-jerk kind of reaction that he had built up for a while. And so I can just tell you that I'm sure that that's the reason. I think Mazzy could have probably said about almost anything else. And it might have taken a little bit for Chad to get there, but for the first words to be UHQR, the first thing, the visual that came to Chad's mind, I'm sure, are the boxes. He's going to talk about the boxes. And, Chad's proud of the stuff he does, kind of like a parent would be proud of their kids, what he's built and his business and everything. And sometimes you get a little defensive when someone, says something, your kid made a bad play at, in sports or whatever. So, yeah. Hello, Moodyful. Is that what it looks like? That's interesting. Hello from Ireland. Wonderful to hear from you. Yeah. Yeah. So that's, really, the boxes were what it was. And that's, he said STFU to him. And that's been kind of Mazzy wants to get a t-shirt now made that says that without any reference to Chad, of course, just a STFU Mazzy kind of thing. And, it was unique. I can see how people on the outside, just kind of went, what the hell, what just happened or whatever. But it's kind of like the same thing that, happened with the, was it Tom Post, the guy who's with Better Records, with the Michael 45 interview. Years and years and years of, I don't even want to call it competition, because that's not, it's kind of like, they kind of see him, I think, a bit like a used car salesman kind of a thing, I guess, versus a dealer. I think, maybe Chad's kind of like, I'm a dealer, I sell new cars and I sell new stuff and I whatever. And this guy is kind of making a mockery of the industry a bit with the way he's doing it and using words like hot stamper and trying to tell people he's got the golden ear. Tom Port, thanks. And by the way, Tom's going to be interviewed by Steve Westman next week on the Audiophiles, Files. next week. He said Tuesday or Wednesday, but it'll be the first interview on the internet. He's never been on YouTube or anything before, so that will be interesting. I hope Steve has some good questions for him. So, yeah, the Washington Post guy. I'm not sure he knew quite what he walked into. I think he's newer to it and a little more naive, and I think he didn't recognize that they saw it as a full frontal assault on the industry to give Tom Port that lead. And it's no different, frankly, than I think deep down Michael Fremer's feeling about, Mike Esposito getting the lead or the picture or the byline on the headline for, the Mofi thing. It's very similar. Egos can be very fragile. So, yeah, egos can be very, but again, it has some history to it. And it's, again, the thing with Tom Port, I never heard of the guy, frankly, until that article came out. And when I looked into him, what he did and whatever, I said, okay, he's basically doing the shopping for other people and they're paying a premium. Okay. But then when I heard a thing about hot stampers, I'm like, what the, what? Okay. Now we're getting into terms that create a little bit of a snake oil kind of a sound to me. Now, if you say, hey, I'm going out and I'm buying what I think are some of the best pressings out there and I'm going to listen to them and compare them and tell you which one I think sounds best, that's legit. I mean, that's just me taking the time to do something and telling you this is what I think. Okay, I get that. But when you start branding it and I just feel like that's a little bit disingenuous to me. So. Yeah. Yeah, John. Yeah, I mean, it's just bad. It's bad blood, I guess. There's no other way to put it. Hatfield, McCoys, whatever you want to call it. Again, I think they all have legitimate businesses that they're running and approaches that they're taking. Again, the only thing I will tell you and this is just me, David Bianco, on an audio excursion with you, I think trying to blend and use this term hot stamper and again, I just think there's certain type things I think you're really waffling into an area where you're creating some sort of a little bit of a black magic to it that you have an insight into or a crystal ball about. Again, if you want to say I can find the best sounding of a lot of different records and I'll do that on your behalf and I'll find it and that's fine. That's totally legit. A lot of us could do that. Not to his degree, maybe. I'm not saying we have experience. I'm just saying if you listen to a bunch of records, I can tell you which one I think sounds best. Okay. But again, when I think, no way, snake oil in the audio industry, no way. Yeah, right. Yeah, it's like amplifiers, equipment, right? There's all that too. So that's the only thing about it, when I, just step back and look at it. But it intrigues me. I mean, in the sense that I look at something and I might go on there one day and say, hey, I just want to test this. I want to see. And again, if he has access to those kind of pressings and he can do the logistical evaluations for you, then time is money, right? I mean, so I don't begrudge him or his business model of doing what they're doing. In the sense of you're trying to do the walking for me or do the evaluating for me. People have the money to do that. Because it's not like you're just paying for the record. You're paying for the effort, too. You're paying for, what it took to get to that. Because remember, to compare things, you got to pay for a lot of other stuff to have the comparison. So it's not just the cost of that one record in and of itself. Yeah, I'm sure they listen to a lot of different records to come up with that assessment. Um, um, I have yet to see a concise explanation that I can consume and buy and fully agree with about hot stamper, what that is. Um, it's not RL2. I mean, that's that's a mastering there that was done differently. I have heard people conflate those two, and they are not, in my mind, to be conflated. So, yeah. So, yeah, Tony, you're right. Mike's right. That's exactly what he's doing, and like I said, I have no problem with that. Yeah, that's fair. It's the service. Again, I have no problem with that whatsoever. Gold-plated fiber optic cables yesterday totally opened up the soundstage. Yeah, no, I still have an old. I can't pull them through to show you, but I have an old version of Monster cable. I beta tested Monster cable in the 70s, and they let me keep the beta that I had to do evaluations on. And yeah, the cable can make a difference. Now, is it worth the price for the difference? Is it, whatever? I mean, yeah, those are all debatable terms, but there can be an audible difference. What do you think, John? Yeah, I bet they could. I mean, it's not a matter of buying. Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's nothing unfair about that perspective. I don't know that they want to give him the time of day to go through that process. Not the money, not the buying, but even just the acknowledgement. I think, to be honest, I don't know. Okay, so yeah, Small X, you're saying that's exactly what a hot stamper is, a good mastered copy of a record. Okay, well, I've again, you know how it is. There's a lot of info out here, and I was taken to believe it was more of a because things like RL don't happen that often. The RL on Led Zeppelin 2, that doesn't happen that often. From my experience, where they actually go in and say, "Hey, turn it down." You got, I just don't think it happens that often. And I'm not saying it never happens, but in a percentage. So I thought that the hot stamper piece was a little more tied to the lacquer and the stamper versus the actual mastering process. So we're going to see, because Tom's going to get interviewed by Steve Westman next week, and I'm hoping that Steve has some of these questions for him. I'm in touch with Steve. I'm going to probably submit a few just to make sure that I think that they're covered. So, well, they're not in the business of, they're not, they don't see themselves really as competing with him. I mean, in a sense that that's not their business model. So this whole thing really, just got generated by that article, and brought a feud from the background to the foreground. Essentially, is what it did. Well, one of the first copies to come off a stamper, especially in really early pressings, of course, are all the the true promotional, records, the broadcast ones, the promo only, early releases goes out early, those kind of things. Like probably some of the Revolver ones that people are receiving right now. Yeah, I think Victor's right. Yeah, sometimes they say, the first few that there's some adjustment goes on when they put the new stamper on and things like that. I tend to think I wouldn't want one of the first few. Oh, absolutely. They don't all come out the same. That's true. There's a lot of deep, yeah, like I said earlier, there's a lot of factors, a lot of variables that go into how well something's pressed in the whole mechanism of that process, from the raw material to the machinery, to the things that drive the machinery, to operator setups. There's all sorts of variances. Yeah, Simone, that's a little more about what I thought it was. What's the sweet spot in the stamper life? Yeah, I mean, I made the discussion argument about the thing. That the stamper's cutting, essentially, it's putting an image in there, and it's going to have minor variations, and it's going to have minor wear, especially as it goes. And they usually say, well, it's funny. They say, well, we change it before it's a problem. So they do 1,000, and they say, well, we'll know if there's a problem at, let's say, 600. And I'm like, well, if there's a problem at 600, well, how do you know if it happened at 500, or where do you draw the line? It's getting worse, and now we're going to stop. But 600 is not bad enough. It's good enough to keep. And then, it's just a lot of minutia. In a very imprecise process in some ways. So, Black Crowes, Southern Harmony, had no idea. From a hot stamper, looking forward to spending it nonetheless. Thanks. That's our friend from Ireland. Yeah, enjoy. Spin it and enjoy it. Yeah. Well, it doesn't. Yeah, here's the issue. Again, I'm going to say this one more. I think the issue for me is, in being in manufacturing, the ability to trace that to where you could quantify it is which would be interesting to me. And you really got to get into really tracking pressings individual. I mean, it would take a very detailed study to really do this properly. Do I believe that there are some of the presses in the stamper life that are better than others? Yes, I do. And for a variety of reasons. So I do believe that, because you have a process that has variables in it, and some of those variables are very consistent and very tight and provide a very consistent output. And you have sometimes where maybe the variables are really, really great and they really work, and you've got that. And then inverse is true too, where you have some that maybe are a little off and they don't sound quite as good. I'll call those cold stampers. So I do believe there is some variability in that process that could yield a slightly different outcome. The ability to trace that, to prove it, is really the thing that eludes, I think. And I think we're all always wanting ways to prove things, right? So I'm curious, though. I am curious to maybe buy one, just on something I'm very, very familiar with. Because at the end of the day, whatever you call it, that would be, I would be getting exactly what I was paying for, So it does interest me how do I put it, in the, from a process standpoint, from an analytical standpoint. Would I want to do that as a way to buy records? Maybe for a few that I really, really love and want the top of the notch version. Maybe so. Maybe so. Yeah, warming up. Yeah, that's a great point, Victor. Yeah, I mean, there are variables. That's exactly right. Yeah, environmental conditions. And I mean, a lot of these plants aren't environmentally controlled, honestly. They're not, you know. So, well, you got to, yeah, at Small X, I'm thinking you got to know who your best engineers are, who your best pressing plants are. I think those are some of the leading indicators for making those decisions. They're not, I say, foolproof. They're not 1,000%, but they're very, very high predictability elements. I agree with you there. And if you go on Discogs, on the PC or Mac version, not on your phone or iPad, you will see when you pick an engineer the work he has done, or a plant, what records they have pressed. So you can get down to that level. So you're talking about Tim, I guess, right? University of Vinyl, right? Yeah. Country of origin, mastering it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and country of origin is good, of course, in engineer and dead wax info, getting in early pressings. That's when they start talking A1, B2, the early letters and numbers usually mean something. They don't always. There's some labels that really do goofy crap, but overall, I'd say that's fine. That's a good way of doing it. Dead bug on a vinyl one time. Well, yeah, as I say, back in the 70s, you'd get pieces of labels of other records in the grooves. You could actually see it was a yellow Epic or an orange Capitol or whatever. You could see that piece of label in there because they ground up the whole record for recycling. Yeah, the bioplastics, I've read a bit about them, but I don't know what they sound like. That's a good point. Especially those people that are in it for being trendy, something like that could really be, and then there'll be others who will throw guilt around if you don't buy those, of course. Those who really are environmentally focused. Yeah, John, you're right. I mean, I hope he can, come off to be able to establish some sound principles behind what he does. I wonder if his website, I've looked at his website, never looked if it has any acclamations or people who've said, what they've gotten and, what they've thought of him and whatever, and, what service he's provided. And I mean from someone who's serious about this and really would know the difference. Yeah, he's located in California. I know I heard he moved to Atlanta, but I don't know what part of California he's in. Is he in L.A., Hollywood area, or where's he at? I look it up online. Yeah, stereo, as I said earlier, and I don't know if you've heard, but I guess apparently the editor at the WASPO push that into the front of the article because it wasn't going to be at the front because it had some sensationalism and it talked about people spending $500 for an old record. He thought that was catchy, I guess I'll say. Vinyl factory English pressing plant. Talked about biodisc. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if his I mean, he's obviously got customers. He's in business. I guess he's retiring and has others taking over for him. So he seems to be doing well. I went to his website just to peek at it. The numbers kind of turned me off a bit. You know, the prices, like, oh gosh, but I haven't really looked and gone, hey, I wonder what, and pick an album that I really love and see, okay, what does he think he has that's a hot stamper for that or a best of. Yeah, the journalist, yeah. He reminds me of I was as he was in the interview and it was going, these words just went across my mind. It's a jungle out there. You know, like this guy, he's just walked into Fremer, wherever he's going with things. I mean, he's he had the Mofi thing and now this. It's kind of like, two sucker punches. I feel like, and they're trying to. It's funny, they're trying to bring vinyl into the mainstream. Again, it's not in the business section; it's in the leisure section or whatever. And I think the Waxed pointed that out. It's really more about hyping that interest. Some of those OGs are probably ad stampers. Could be. I know that he's comparing them against white label promos, so I know he's getting early presses. So what's in a word, right? I mean, he's going after the best, right? Yeah. Yeah. It would have been a little lower key, but it's tough. I felt bad for Michael 45 because once it's like he should be wearing a referee outfit in those those interviews instead of his sweater. Yeah. Mom had okay, I got to read this. Mom had theory with Graham and thicker records. Okay. Could change stylus angle. Well, I don't think that's a theory. I think that's actually a mathematical truth. I mean the height. The tracking angle. Let's say you put one record. Let's say you had a 120 gram record like a Dynaflex. If you put another Dynaflex on top of it, remember we used to stack records. Remember they used to have stackers. Oh gosh, and it really, would the needle would be like like this at first, and then it would slowly be like this. So it was definitely changing. Yeah. Oh, I didn't know Jeff was in the Hoffman forums. Was he live, or was it just, I guess it's just typing, right? I guess, yeah. Yeah, Simone, I think you're right about the, the research and the port thing and the volatility that had. I think it was a lot more explosive than he recognized. Mike E. Maybe you didn't mean Mike E. Did you mean Mike E? You said John Bandy. Do you mean Michael 45? Which is, I thought he's... Oh, okay. Thanks, Jason. Yeah. Well, Mom's good at common sense, too, probably. Parents have to be that way. Mm. Yeah, it's obvious that Michael Fremer's still, I think he referred to Mike Esposito as a person who shall not be mentioned. So that's quite high praise. Oh, Jeff is getting blasted on Hoff Forum. Yeah, it's it's a jungle out there. It's yeah, I know. It's like it's even worse than changing your channel name. I can tell you that's I could change it to almost anything and it'd still be, it's tough. It's okay. You gotta. It's the old Ricky Nelson garden party. Can't please everyone. You got to please yourself. Oh yeah, there's publicity in this. Yeah, I mean, it was like, yeah, he made the comment that that wasn't done to evoke any kind of sensationalism to the article, and I thought, really bullshit. I'm sorry. That's as soon as you call somebody a loser against somebody who says you've never made a good product, that's pretty sensationalistic, right? I mean, there's no doubt about that. David's vinyl advice. Oh, that would be Victor's David advice, right? Yeah, I went through a lot of different possibilities, guys. I did, and advice was a word that I had in there. Honest, I didn't want to be limited to vinyl because I like to talk about equipment and maybe even SACDs and some other things. So the word the vinyl was. I love vinyl, but I didn't want to get boxed in either. So it's kind of like Michael 45 Audiophile was about 45 RPM. Now he's into OGs, so is it what Michael OG Audiophile, or you know what I mean? Duh, vinyl. Yeah, it's like duh bears. Well, I grew up in Gary, Indiana, which was called the region, so everything comes around, right? Oh, John, okay. I see what you're saying about that. Okay. Yeah. The Crosley man, the million views. Oh, man. I've always thought about Crosley. You too can cut your own record. Every time you play it. The Record Shavers. Crosley, the Record Shavers. All right, John, there you go. It's still got text. Yeah, that was another thing, taking Texas out. It was, and I'm like, people don't like it. And I'm like, well, okay, too bad. That's their problem. I'm just, just got sick of it after a while. Yeah, Michael's really, walks into this at a time when, the world's your oyster. I mean, as long as you got a good wallet, you can, do whatever you want to do. But it's true. Yeah, I mean, I've really, sometimes when I have duplicates, I'll go and listen to them to decide which one I want to keep. And, sometimes there's an OG and a reissue that I have, and it's amazing how high a percentage, the OG always is the best of the two. Yeah, it's okay, John. We all have some kind of bias. At least you can admit it. Yeah, Small X, I know. Yeah, I know. And it was kind of like the last time I said it, or when I was doing my last video with it, I'm like, there's a little bit of that, and but okay, I get most of it. Yeah, I think somebody estimated that the one he did on, I think it was called Grail or something like that, a few days ago. They estimated it was the albums he showed were $1,500 worth. So. Well, it just goes, what it goes to show you, Simone, and everybody is, we're a creature of what we know and what we're exposed to, and that becomes really the way we move. And in his case, it took that major event that happened, with Mofi to kind of. Now, I've got to ask myself at the same time, okay, did that really change what you heard? It shouldn't have changed what you heard. It might have changed what you believed about the company and what you might have done if you would have known. That's true. I get that 100%. So I do get that part of it. The good, OG's and OG's and OG. I mean, it is what it is, right? There's not. I was looking. Who's it today? Somebody showed. Oh yeah, somebody showed there was a Mofi from '84, and it was Herb Alpert's Rise, which was a pretty good album. I have an OG of it actually, and then I looked it up on Discogs because I wanted to see when that came out on Mofi. I couldn't remember that it had, but it came out in '84, and then it showed at the bottom all but one song were done on a 32 track 3M digital system. So and that was '84, and it was probably the original was made in '83. So there you are. That was an early one. So some of those even have that trace right at the start. Yeah, maybe that was his reasoning to do reissues because they're easier to get. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't follow him. I mean, I'm relatively new to his channel. This last 8 months to 12 months. Well, I don't, my guess is he may have heard that, about OGs from, that may have been a groundswell of you know, people saying that, I think, because honestly, that is kind of where you start. I mean, Mofi for me was when I wasn't satisfied usually with the pressing, I would try theirs. And a lot of my dissatisfaction with OGs honestly had to do with the quality of the vinyl, the noise level. To be honest with you, it wasn't all that often that it was OG. I think this can sound a ton better. It was that I didn't like noise between tracks or on quieter portions. I just really have a bit of a visceral reaction to noisy vinyl. So to me, even if an OG sounds a little better, but it has noise versus a clean version that maybe isn't as perfect, I'll probably go with the latter because the noise bothers me. So to each their own. But that is, and to me, and that's why when I did the shootout with Fagan, I listed I graded the surface noise of the vinyl, A through F, because to me that's a valid component of what you hear. You shouldn't hear, but it's what you hear, and it's a distraction from the music. Too many personalities, yeah. Yeah, I don't want to be a person. I just want to be a person. I don't want to be a personality. Yeah, yeah, you're right. I mean, I'm same way. I just am more comfortable. Thanks, Bill. I appreciate you joining and saying that. I really honestly do, because you're kind of speaking out into the ether here, literally, and you're not never sometimes really knowing if you're making a difference or if you're helping out or if you're just talking to yourself. So, Bill, thanks very much. I appreciate that. Good. Yeah. Well, yeah. Jason and John. Yeah. I think. Yeah. Probably he's heard it. Yeah. A sugar cubes. Yeah. I saw. That's what Patrick. Thanks, John. Patrick uses that, right? The Vinyl Archivist, because I looked that up. Those are pricey, but that really is cool. If you're talking about the thing that rips, basically to digitized high res. Man, I don't have a Nightfly One Step. That's on my wish list. That's on my wish list. The original's pretty quiet. It's not dead quiet, but I mean, the Mofi is quieter. It's the Mofi version, the standard 33. It's quieter. Exactly. Well, I have the 5.1 Dark Side of the Moon Analog Productions release. I have a German vinyl 4-channel, the original, because that album was made for quad and then mixed down. Parsons actually did that for 4-channel first. Oh, yeah, that's right. You can play your LP straight through the thing. Yeah, and I think, if I remember right, Patrick said he might have got that on a Kickstarter or something. But they're like $2,500 or $3,500 if I'm not mistaken. I was like blown away about how much they were. Mm. Jason said it sounds okay. Okay, so it doesn't blow the doors off. Yeah, it's $300+ so I want something that's gonna blow the doors off a bit. Mm. John, you're right. I've wondered the same thing. When do they do anything else, let alone listen to vinyl? Yeah, you're right. Yeah. One Step didn't blow you away. Okay. Okay. Thanks, John. Oh, you've been buying reels. Yeah, if you can find them. Yeah, you definitely don't have the pops. There's no doubt about that. No doubt about that. I think I want to see. I may have missed a statement that I wanted to catch. Okay. You've learned to clean your vinyl. Yeah, you got to clean your vinyl no matter what, right? If you were to get up right now. I'm sorry. If you were to get up right now and try to get a record off the press, might they say not just now repacking? Okay. Yeah. Well, the process at QRP, I would find it difficult to see how they would get a warm record into a jacket, into a sleeve, sorry, because of the process they have. If they follow it, which I think they do, but I'm not saying humans aren't humans, but different experience. That's interesting. Chris Bellman. That was the guy. That was the name I was trying to remember earlier. Chris Bellman, CB. Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. Let me know about the Chris Bellman because I'd like to pick that one up. Desire. Okay. You're talking about Dylan's. Okay. I had a chance to buy one here for $80, I think, a year ago, or not even a year ago. But I didn't. Your Asia reel sounds insane. I bet it does. Man. Sugar cane or sugar cube? Hang on. I'm gotta get my sugar right here, guys. Oh, wow. You found a 1006 AB. Yeah, I've got one of those. It is amazing. Sugar cube. Okay, that's what I thought it was. Probably an autocorrect. Yeah, but man, those are pricey. And the only place I saw selling them was Music Direct, ironically, and I don't think they had any in stock. It seemed like I couldn't find any anywhere. I think there may have been one on eBay, but it seemed like there weren't any to buy. Even if I had, the cash in fist. So I need. I'm in Dallas area, John. I don't know if you must not be if you visited somebody in Dallas, but maybe one day we'll get together. I'm here just outside Dallas. Good. Yeah, it's the listening comparisons are interesting. Very interesting. Do you guys I do them on speakers, but I also do them on headphones. I wondered if you guys do any comparisons on headphones. Oh, you're in West Texas. Okay, John. Anybody So, I find there's certain nuances that I can pick up. Okay, Odessa. Certain nuances I definitely can pick up of headphones that are a little more precise. Certain things, but when it comes to imaging and depth, and I really have to be listening on speakers to get that. Now the left to right positioning of stuff and some of the intricacies of instruments that are maybe a little bit behind, or even voices that are behind the front piece of the information, is it clear to pick up on headphones. So slow data. Yeah. No. Okay. Yeah. You listen on both. I do too. There's just times when I get a better separate parts of room. So between the speakers, okay. Super. Oh yeah, I remember that, Simone, about the blood on the tracks. Yeah. Of course, the CBS Master Sound. Do you mean the half-speed Master Sound? Those I think have a digital step in them actually from the very start. Mm-hmm. Second pressing is super hot. Okay. Has anybody heard the Dark Side of the Moon, which was the first take of it? In other words, before they made some changes. There was actually a first release of it. It wasn't on vinyl or anything. It was internally on tape, and it got out. I got a copy of it on MP3. Just kind of interesting what they added afterwards to make it what it ended up being. I'm using Sony MDR V6s. Been around since the 70s, I think, that model. Yeah, I have that Wish You Were Here also, that one. The CBS. Yeah, some Mofis went up. Some the DSD ones went down quite a bit, and the stuff on that's out now is not selling out. That's for sure. That's the other thing. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I've had a set of those for a long time. I got these Bose. These are okay, but I use these more on airplanes and stuff like that. But it does have a direct wire, so you can connect it as opposed to using Bluetooth, which is nice. Victor's thought, where's down here? You said we first got stampers down here of DSOTM. Thanks, John. Take care of yourself. Glad to have you anytime. Anytime. desirable one. Desire became more desirable. That's interesting. Yeah, Jason, it's good news is a small world. Okay, Victor Stott, thanks. You're in New Zealand. Welcome. You've been very active. I appreciate it very much. Yeah. Yeah, everybody says the 30th anniversary is the one, the real hot one or real good one of the newer, redos. But, to be honest, for the average bear, the 2016 remaster is not a slouch. It's pretty decent for the money. So it's good that they've not just, just made, just some old, kind of whatever. I think they did put a little effort into it, which is good. Glad to see they haven't just thrown the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. Yeah, I saw a 30th anniversary last year for $90. I should have bought it. I don't know what the hell I was thinking. Yeah, the new plant for Mofi is an interesting animal. I'm interested in, I've got some people that are going to that area near Oxnard that I'm going to have check out the area to see how they're coming along and what have you. For all we know, they could have stopped building right by now or something. Who knows? Doing something to pay the legal bills, because I'm sure they've got a lot of legal bills right now. And they only have, 4 suits in process. They haven't even been adjudicated yet. But a lot of activity to respond to those and to get ready for those. So. We're from Middle Earth. Oh, really? You've got, okay, 5.1. Okay. Yeah. There you go. Yeah, I've got you're crazy. I don't know that I cracked the seal on mine that I bought from Analog Productions either, now that I think about it. Wow. I'm sure, now that I think about it, I haven't. When I got it, I didn't have my Oppo. My Oppo I had was an older one, and I got a newer one. They quit making them, but I got one that plays all formats now and has analog outs. So that's why I didn't open it at the time. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm exactly like you. I just got to open the damn thing. Yeah, well, Music Direct's they were different. They sell equipment and all sorts of other stuff too. So, which I think Jim Davis is much closer to that part of the business than he is the Mofi part. I think he is from the Mofi part for selling the product, but I think the engineering and all that, I don't. The stuff that was in that magazine that was like an interview with him or questions answered. I mean, he didn't answer, I'm sure, most of those questions. He was given those questions, and they were hand answered by probably his engineering team and his marketing team. Peter Jackson, yeah, he does. He now I've heard there's some debate about Here, There, and Everywhere where there's something funny that happened or something that doesn't sound right. I just heard that yesterday. I don't know. Haven't heard that yet. I mean, mine. I don't know when mine will get here. I ordered it through Universal, so. Well, sure. I'm sure MoFi has. I mean, Music Direct has. I mean, they're named in the lawsuit. I mean, it's not just MoFi. It's Music Direct. I mean, and then there's Music Direct Warehousing, I think, or MoFi Warehousing is in it too. I mean, it's a, yeah, it's all, they're all together. They're all tied together. And I think people, just, I don't know, just stay away sometimes when things are going bad. Yeah, did back and revolver and hobbyware. Yeah, right. Yeah, I've been busy with that technology. No, I don't have the Dark Side of the Moon box set that has the Blu-ray in it. No, I don't. I hadn't ordered stand-up yet. I don't know. Yeah, that's RTI's my kind of my wobble on that too. Oh, maybe that was Jason where I heard it from Jeff. Maybe that was where I heard it. You know how it is. You hear so many. You got these streams going, and you're, like, where did I know I heard that? But yeah, okay. Yeah, you buy a box set, and the chance of errors, increases the more albums there are, of course, in it. That's just the way it is. Did they offer this latest batch at $600 and then up it? Is that correct? Because I know the original release that came out was 600, however many years ago that was. But did this new incarnation start out at $600 and then get changed? And then they had to honor the $600? Is that how that went? Is that what I recall? I could see Chad running around going, "You didn't change the price? You didn't change the price?" Well, yeah, and I know it was it was 600 done the first time they did it, but then I guess when they put it back on, or they put it back up for pre-order, maybe they didn't change the price in the system. Ah, yeah, that's what I think happened. They probably changed the status to pre-order from out of stock, and the pricing changed. Yeah, I don't think. I mean, I'm not huge into jazz, so for me to make a comment about whether I would pay $900 or $600 for a box is irrelevant. So. No, please, no. Well, Chad recommends pre-ordering everything. He's buy now, cry later kind of guy. So, um, yeah, it's no one's saying it's not pricey. And that's why, frankly, I mean, some of the defects, yeah, they need to be addressed, but it's not like they wouldn't have defects. But I know I've heard a lot of people say they got a perfect box set, so. Mm. That's funny, Simone. Yeah, I got to go through the Creedence Clearwater Abbey box I haven't opened yet. It's only, I don't know how many records are in it, 7, 11, I don't know. It's not too bad. But got those through UK, and with the dollar and the pound exchange rate, I mean, it's really, you can get some deals right now, actually, in some ways, if you're careful. Yeah, I'm trying to get picky, I guess, more and more picky as I go. But what's y'all's experience with music on vinyl? I'm kind of, have you guys bought much for music on vinyl, labeled products? What kind of results have you had? You know, I know they went through a pretty high price increase about 6 months ago, about 25-30%. Jason. Yeah, I have found quick spec. I've found that they tend to be better with when the source is digital, newer stuff. I think they're more compatible. Their process and mastering is more compatible with that than it is some of the older stuff that is analog to start. So, just generally, what I have found. I think the vinyl though is pretty quiet though. That is one thing I have found. I think that outfit out of the Netherlands, ironically, the outfit that did some of those animals ones that were a problem, they apparently are the ones who do all the MOVs. So, yeah, see, 90s alternatives, that's what I mean. But like older stuff, 70s, America or whatever, some of those I don't think are as good. Yeah, I am listening. I bought quite a few to do comparisons on. Okay. Yeah, a lot of their stuff when it comes out in Europe, it's a limited edition color vinyl, and then they go to black after that. So they have kind of have had unique packaging. I think they're changing it from what I've seen. Some of the newer stuff is a little different. The Forrest Gump is really well done. It's Forrest Gump soundtrack, which has a lot of good music on it. So, it's worth having. So if you like, anybody who maybe missed what I showed earlier, I can show you the short videos I did on a Mofi One Step and a UHQR. What's on them? See if I could change my camera real quick. There we go. Love it when things actually work. It's so rare. Okay, let's see. Show you guys what this little unboxing looks like.
So this is going to be showing you the contents of a Mobile Fidelity or Mofi One Step. And I happen to pull Carole King Tapestry for this one. So let's take a look at what's inside and how it's boxed. So This has obviously been unsealed. There's a styrofoam here for protection. And then we have a cover, but it's just showing you the way the gatefold interior would look like, and the back cover. So again, front cover and gatefold, and then the back. So this is just heavy stock paper. We get a UltraDisc One Step layout of how it works. Now again, we know these graphics have changed, but the One Step basically here shows that the father and the mother, which are usually steps that are in between the lacquer and the stamper, are eliminated. Normally this is what gives you the high yield and capability to make more stampers from mothers and make more mothers from fathers. Here with the One Step, it goes from the lacquer that comes from the mastering engineer, and then it gets made into a stamper here, which goes to the vinyl then. So if they're going to make about 1,000 of the records from each lacquer, you have to have X amount of lacquers to support that many. And again, that's what made the issue with the Michael Jackson become so obvious, because it was going to be 40,000 of these, and 1,000 of those per yield would require 40 lacquers, and we knew they wouldn't run the master tape that many times. So that's there. Then we get to the actual records. So what they do is they have LP1, and they just have an image of that. Okay, and on the back it just shows you what the songs are on each side. There's 3 songs on side 1 and 3 on side 2. Obviously going 45 RPM, it's going to have a little less storage. And again, some of these have a little split seam on the top here, because these are shipped with the record inside, and the record inside is protected by this heavy stock. Then the actual LP comes in a Mofi sleeve. So you get 2 of those, obviously, covering the entire recorded album. So you don't really get a traditional cover and jacket for putting your albums in, which has the image of the actual front cover and back cover like you would see in the store on the originals. So the 2 LPs, and then another styrofoam piece to secure it all. And that's basically what you get in a Mobile Fidelity One Step. All right, so now we're going to look at a UHQR, which stands for Ultra High Quality Recording by Analog Productions. This is pressed at QRP, which is the record plant there in Salinas, Kansas, where Acoustic Sounds is part of this triumvirate of companies that are there, which yield both productions like this, the remastering and the production, then through QRP, and Acoustic Sounds is kind of the store front on the web. So we're going to take a look at Aqualung Jethro Tull, and this is a UHQR by Analog Productions. So I'm going to come over, and so you notice we have some stickers here, and this one says officially licensed and authorized for resale by the record label. It says 100% analog masters, so this is like a real tape, and this says made in the USA, QualityRecordsPressings.com, Quality Records Pressings logo, and it says innovation, precision, the best LPs ever pressed. And the bottom one says the Analog Productions Quality Guarantee Original Master Tapes. We use the original master tapes and work with only the best mastering studios. Quality Record Pressings is, of course, plating and processing at the world's best pressing plant on virgin vinyl, unmatched quality control, meticulous test pressings, evaluated and quality control, deluxe packaging, which I'll show you, highest quality jackets, and rice paper inner sleeves, and then limited editions, less than 1,000 recordings in per stamper, meaning they won't make any more than 1,000 records per stamper, released in limited quantities. So this, if you take this out, then here's what we have. Very different kind of arrangement. This is kind of like a bookend when you look at it. You can see it has the Jethro Tull Aqualung like you would see maybe on a book on a shelf. So very different presentation. Okay, so you get, firstly, in this case, which would be an insert normally in an album or on the actual inner sleeve with, in this case, the words for the album. You get kind of a promotional thing with the technical specifications manual. Goes into very deep detail about the process. Okay. They have some promotional material as well regarding other pressings that they have available. But this is the core to me, is really giving you a full, transparent and visible detail of the methodologies, including photos of how these albums were produced. And I think that's obviously important in this classification of record. So then you have, there are going to be 2 LPs in here. And the first one in the inner sleeve is here, and there is a bubble wrap between the two so they don't bump up against each other. Okay? So this is clear, whereas Mofi, I didn't bring it out, but Mofi is black. It's kind of a clear, it's, in this case, it's called clarity vinyl, which means clarity, clearness. And then the second LP, you can see the kind of the original chrysalis green on there. So those are your 2 records. And they have, again, that bubble wrap between them. And then you get an actual gatefold of the album. As well as a certificate of authenticity signed by Mr. Chad Kassem. So you get the gatefold. I'm not going to open this fully because I don't care to, but this is like the original album, very sturdy. Backside, this is number 953, individually numbered here. Okay, so you can choose, if you'd like, to then place these records inside of this jacket if you choose to. There's openings here on each end. Or you can leave this as it is within this box the way it came. And then, so you have a choice. You can keep the box, you can take this out, put this in your collection with a outer sleeve around it, and put these up in your bookcase or whatever. So you have lots of options. And I think that's, I know one of our great VC people, Norman Mazzy Masloff, really doesn't like this box, and I certainly can see it's very different. From a handling standpoint, it's kind of nice to get in there and pull it out and be able to easily access things. So I mean, I find it kind of nice, but the point is, this is what you get. And this is essentially the differences between the way Mobile Fidelity presents a one-step, where they really don't give you a cover like the OG and the originals and even the reissues, but Analog Productions does. So that's a difference. Affects price maybe a little bit, I don't know, but my point is, it is a different way of presenting the product, and they're very, very high quality.
Okay, there you have it. All right. Oh, you guys have been chatting a bit. That's nice to see. Hope I didn't put anybody to sleep, but that'll be my next video coming out. But I thought I'd preview it to you guys just to show people some of the differences. You choose. That's one good thing about the market. You choose, right? The cat comes alive on the Tapestry One Step. No, it does not. He goes, rare. I think the 2x45 Mofi of Tapestry is actually better, but just my opinion. Yeah, you said I was reading Simone's about Eagle's sleeves. Yeah, geez, same problem here. Yeah, and here's the thing. I guess you can, when you order, I guess you can tell them to take it out of the box and take the records out of the sleeve. I guess you can actually do that. But, maybe somebody wants to buy an extra one as a gift or whatever, like I know I have. And it's like, okay, you really want to give it to them sealed. So it's messed up. They know it's messed up. Chad and them, they actually take the records out on purpose to not have anything get damaged with the actual, gatefold. So again, little things, matter, right? So that's good. Tom Port is saying, yeah, Jason, yeah, somewhere, what isn't somewhere, it's in that article, it's in that Washington Post article. Which I don't know if I have a link to that still works, because they take it, they put it up on a paywall after a few days is what they do. Honestly, that's what they end up doing. Let me see here. They have different tracks on these articles. I took a few snapshots out of a few of these articles, but that one I didn't get. I don't think I have a PDF of it. I was thinking if I had a PDF of it, I could just scroll it on the screen. Let me see. I think it came out on 9/30, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see here. Hang on, guys. I think I got it. Change my camera here. There we go. So that's the top of the article. You guys can read this. Beginning of the article, how it starts. So right out of the box, it's like Tom Port's expert of all. Hope I'm not scrolling too fast for you guys. Just read that. Records are like snowflakes. No two are the same. record collectors are like snowflakes too. Next up is a copy pressed by Analog Production, Kansas-based label founded by Jad Kassem. Port says that Kassem has never made a single good-sounding record since AP's founding in '91. Kassem calls Port a effing loser. This blind listen gets better marks, which surprises Port when he's told it's an analog. That's the best-sounding Analog Productions record I've ever heard because it's not terrible. So that's the meat and potatoes, gang, of what that was. So if you send me an email to david@safeandsoundtexas.com, I'll email you that PDF if you don't have access to that file or you can't find it or you just are lazy and want me to send it to you. I'm okay either way. It's quite a bit after that too. But anyway, that was the meat and potatoes of what really brought it on. So anyway, yeah, you can tell Massey's from Seattle from his posts. Yeah. You don't kick a fresh turd on it. Yeah. Chad has some sayings about turds. Can't shine a turd, I think is what he says. Yeah, I mean, Michael Fremer is a giant, and he has been, really the staunch guy through the decades. And, I certainly give him his due for that. I just think it's kind of sad now that as we've gotten here, with the whole thing with Mofi, it's just got, to where it really has created a split of some kind, and it has hurt feelings, and it has created professional, I don't want to say jealousies, that just sounds too strong, but, I'm sure Michael would have loved to have gotten that story, so to speak. If I was a reporter and that was what I did, I would have wanted to get that story. That story was there for the taking. I think it's just that it wasn't taken and it wasn't pursued. And I think maybe everybody had the best thoughts of that, maybe that can't be true. But reporters can't think that way. Frankly, journalists can't think that way. It's one of the problems we have in journalism right now. There's really not enough investigation fully on things. It's kind of a little bit investigation based on proxy, what investigations they want to do because they believe in the agenda or whatever, as opposed to balance in investigations. I think that's one of the problems we have. But if I thought Rachel Sheen was drama, then get on the Hoffman forums and see the audiophile elitist and blowhards. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I've stayed away from the Hoffman forums. I read a little bit when Mofi happened, but where Edgar failed to describe Port like an undisputed expert. Yeah. Yeah, the ERC issue. Yeah, it didn't help. Yeah, some people are their own worst enemy. I guess I'm just going to put it to you that way. I think we're all subject to that at times. I mean, but keep seeing Mike E. Do you mean Mike L? Mike Ludwig's, the German guy? You said Mike E. is Esposito from the In Groove. I just want to. This is twice now. I've kind of been confused. I'm just. Esposito did the best he could given the ceremony. Oh, you're talking about during the interview. Oh, you're talking about the Mofi interview. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, Mike's not a journalist. He was there to really try to get them to spill the beans. He just had to get them to finally get to a point where they spilled the beans. That's all he really needed to do. Yeah. And it's easy to say, I would have, you could have, you should have, when you're not the person, you know what I mean? So, you know, when you look at it, the engineers danced around it a little bit, and they kind of, okay, yeah, we did, da-da-da. But then, when Jim Davis came out and he actually proclaimed in his statement, boom, he kind of put the nail in the coffin to get really from a macro standpoint as a business. So yeah, see, the statement you're making, Jason, is interesting because according to them, they think that Jeff's thought that people would see through Tom Port and his craziness. But I don't think, in some ways he understands, the vinyl community, that there are people out there espousing a lot of things. And I think the way it was seen by some is that, you're holding up this guy as the poster child for vinyl community as a whole, and the fact that Mike Esposito led the other thing was contextually relevant because he was the guy who actually went to Sebastopol and got Jim Wood to say come on down, and he inserted himself into the story. Whereas Tom Port is really a very peripheral figure in the vinyl community. And he's almost, an anomaly. And he was, given that. And again, Jeff didn't put him there. The editor put him there, apparently. But, I think people took offense to that. I mean, I'm trying to think of a correlation, it's kind of like, your biggest player on your team is Aaron Judge, and then the article, they start talking about the Yankees, they start talking about a rookie shortstop or something. It's like, wait a minute, this doesn't seem, contextually where the beef's at, where the meat's at, so. Yeah, well, I mean, it got, that thing I got, it's like between Fremer and Chad, it's like you're just giving this guy more publicity. Be quiet. I mean, any publicity is good publicity when you're needing publicity or when you're, in business. I think that's the deal. Are dealers getting special deal? Not that I know of. I mean, Mike Esposito certainly hasn't indicated such. Oh, Jeff said that a 45 asked him not to mention Mike by name. Okay. Well, I think actually Fremer, said, you led that article with the person who shall not be mentioned or whatever. So they had it going with the ERC thing before that, Yeah, I hear you, Bill. Well, I have a bit of an interest to test his theory. by making a few purchases to test his theory as an academic exercise. It's something that earlier guys were saying Chad and maybe Michael should do Fremer, but I don't think they would give him any more, time of day than that. I don't think. Yeah, we want to use those whipped cream records for $500 a pop. Yeah. Oh, Mofi tapestry popped back up. The One Steps, Simone? Wow, okay. I wanted to see something about that album real quick. I've kept a database on the mastering chain from Mofi. Kept my own for that. And I wanted to see tapestry. It's a 33 RPM, 45 RPM, quarter inch, 15 IPS analog master. That's what I thought. A DSD 64. That isn't even a DSD 256. That's a DSD 64. So it's essentially the same 1-bit that they use for the SACDs. It's not the 4X oversample. So that weakens its case. I mean, that's a lesser DSD on top of it. Yeah, it makes sense what you're saying, that taking it back and whatever. Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, there's a lot of activity that's going on in the background, I think, related to some of these. They're not, they're really, I mean, I canceled all my Van Halens. I canceled a couple others too. Mofis, One Steps. I was on the fence about getting some of those in the first place, to be honest, and I ordered them. I went ahead and I ordered them through Music Direct because they don't charge you immediately. And I wanted to see how, they did, how the things were going in the market and generally with One Steps. But then when this hit, it was like, okay, that's it. So, yeah, it's good. Well, I can't believe this. That's it. 3 hours and 9 minutes. I can't believe I've been on here long. Goodness. Thanks for hanging with me, gang. It's 1:06 a.m. Central Time in the good old US of A. And so I'm going to start to wind her down. But I do appreciate all the questions. 2D or here. SACD at $30. Okay, yeah, I get that. Yeah. Yeah, I have to really go back. One thing that's come up a lot is, the Beatles, the original Beatles box, and smiley face EQ and all that. I'm really going to have to take a comparison with my BC13 now. Again, it's been a while since I listened to them just to get it. So, K Small Axe, I appreciate you joining. Thanks, everyone. Simone, everybody from Ireland and New Zealand and anywhere USA or anywhere world. I really do appreciate you guys spending the time. And tell your friends to check in my channel once in a while. I appreciate that as always. And you guys take care. Thanks very much as always. Take care. See you guys. Have a great weekend. Take care. Bye-bye.